It's been a little while since I put out a video, but today I'm going to show you a 62 kilowatt hour battery swap that I recently did for a customer. It's got some new and improved methods, and I'm going to show a lot more of the swap process in this video. This customer actually found me from my original video. He's local to Salt Lake, and he reached out to me if I could swap his battery for him. So he bought a 62 kilowatt hour battery off of LKQ, had it shipped to his house, and then he drove the battery over here on his trailer along with his Leaf he also drove over. So first step was unload the battery with the forklift. Then we had to do a little bit of pallet manipulation and swap pallets so that we could slide the battery under the car and be able to access the bolts and screw it in without the pallet underneath being in the way. So here's my test kit on checking the battery outside of the car to make sure it's good before we go through all this work. I'm just connecting to the CAN high and low, and then 2 power and 3 ground pins. I'll put the link for Dallas GitHub on this. I also make these harnesses if you want to buy them. I'll also put an eBay link. And I've got a Leaf Spy here, and then just a 12-volt battery source. So these are just DuPont connectors that slide right on the pins. I'll also make ones that have the proper Nissan Leaf connector that twists on, more robust if you like that more. It's easier to put on, it's just a much more expensive connector. And so I'll show the Leaf Spy readings. So here's the main reading from Leaf Spy. At the top, the state of health is 97.5%. That's really good. That means this battery has a lot of life left. The HX is 74%. I'd like to see that a little bit higher, but this is still a good battery. What that means is this car just isn't going to be able to charge and discharge energy as quickly, but it's still going to be a fully functional freeway speed car. And then the voltage spread of all the cells. There's a 43 millivolt spread, which is okay, and you can see one cell is a bit lower. All the others are actually phenomenally balanced. So this is something to keep an eye on. I've informed the customer of this, and he wanted to move forward anyways. Just due to the price and availability of batteries. So that cell can be the weak link of this pack, and if it hits a low voltage, it'll cut off the battery before the battery is actually too low. So that's something to keep an eye on. That cell can be replaced in the future if necessary. And then at the very bottom, you see the state of charge is 69%. That's great. This battery's been sitting for a while. It came out of a wrecked car. This is exactly where I want to see battery percentage at. I'd rather see 70% than 30% or 90%. Batteries do better when they're at like a 70% state for long periods of time in storage. And I believe this battery had 50 to 60,000 miles on it, and it was from a 2022. Can't see that because there's no vehicle hooked up on the Leaf Spy, so I can't see the odometer history. I can only see that when the battery is connected to the car. But the VIN of the battery does pull up, so you could backtrack that and find when the car was wrecked and probably find the mileage on it. I've blocked out the VIN for privacy purposes of my customer. And here's just a histogram of all the individual cell voltages. You can see almost all of them are clustered all together, nice bell-shaped curve with the one outlier that's a little bit lower. So this is a 60, it's marked as 60 kilowatt hour. I think they're really 62. And the date is back here, 2022, so it's only 3 years old. It didn't come with a disconnect. There was duct tape over this, and there was duct tape over all these 3 connectors. And a bummer is that this is cracked, which isn't good. This is your main high voltage. This should really be replaced. I'm gonna install it in the car for the time being, tape it up, and then see if the customer is able to get another battery that we can swap in, or at least get a part to replace this. Because LKQ really should have given them one that wasn't damaged. So this car has a 30 kilowatt hour battery, 78,000 miles. and it's down to 7 bars of health, probably only a 60 to 70 mile range. And so right now I've plugged in my Leaf Spy. I'm going to read the stats on this battery before taking out of the car so that I can take screenshots so that the customer whose car this is has a chance to sell that battery. Maybe get $1,000 for it from someone who wants to use it for solar. And here's the main Leaf Spy dashboard for the current old battery. State of health 57%, that's pretty low. HX is really low at 25%. This is definitely the cause of the symptoms that the customer was telling me. At high speeds it would rapidly deplete range. And the 113 millivolt spread between the cells is really big. You can see the one cell is, I would say this is essentially a failed cell at this point. This would cause the car to shut off or go into turtle mode when there's really quite a bit of battery left. So honestly, replacing that one cell, this pack could probably still go for 3 to 5 more years, just at a limited range and be more of an around town car. And you can see it's only been quick charged 3 times, and it's been level 1, level 2 charged 2,300 times. That's probably why this battery has made it this far. 80,000 miles is pretty good for an earlier generation Leaf. Quick charging is what will really degrade a pack quickly, especially with the no active cooling on the Nissan Leaf. And here's the histogram, kind of all over the place, cells not really clustered at all, with the one significant outlier of the failed cell. So the height of the new battery plus pallet going in is about 17 inches. So I'm going to add 19 inches. That's when I have the bottom sill of the car off the ground so that we could slide it and install the new battery. All right, the car is 19 inches off the ground now. So now what I'm gonna do next is pull out 1, 2, 3 of the undercovers so that we can get to the battery. I got a 3-ton jack going under the shock bolt in the rear. And then in the front, I got 6-ton jacks this time because they're a lot taller. I know a lot of people rightfully roasted me for lifting up with concrete blocks, but that's going to a subframe bolt, so it's much sturdier and improved this time. The first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the battery negative, and then wait a few minutes before I start disconnecting anything else on the car. All 3 covers are out. The front's the middle one that fits back in at the end, and I got all the bolts back here. Now I'm going to pull the access hatch here and remove the service disconnect. All right, it was super stuck, and I got the white lever to fling up about 45 degrees, but to get it to 90, it was really stuck. But now that's out, and I'm safe to disconnect the connectors underneath the car. Now I'm gonna pull the 3 connectors under the car, the CAN line, the main high voltage line, and the battery heater line. They each have little tabs and tricks to come off. This one twists and pulls. This one's got a tab back here and a tab here. And this one's got a tab here. Now all 3 connectors are out, and you're gonna wanna take this bolt out that holds this out. And now I got these ground straps on either side, and then it's ready to just take the battery bolts out. So I'm under the car again, and I'm taking out these 4 bolts in the back brackets first. They don't really support much load, and it'll just be easier to take them out now. And I will zip out the perimeter bolts once I get the forklift and a pallet under here. I've got a kit of everything to swap over to 62 kilowatt hour. The frame rails, the adapter brackets, these are the rear brackets. These are some spacers I made to go in here. I went with thinner wall steel this time and had them powder coated. Some people in the last video brought up valid concerns of stainless corroding on the frame, so these are steel powder coated now. Same with these. I've got 2 long bolts, 2 short bolts with washers. These are caps to go in the ends. Then we've got the can bridge, which I've pre-flashed and wired up. The fuse tap to power the can bridge. I'll post the link for kits of these that I have on eBay. If you want to buy any of these, you can buy some parts, all or nothing. I've also got the links for how you can DIY it yourself. These 2 back brackets, it can be helpful to bend them toward the rear of the car just to give you more space to slide the battery in and go straight up. For a 62 kilowatt hour swap, you got to put these rails in first before the new battery goes in. And this side that's got the 3 holes is toward the rear of the car. And it only gets installed with 1 bolt here. This other one is a pass-through, but you want to use that as a guide to line it up when you go to install this. So do that first before the battery goes in. So we got the 4 corners in and the 2 fronts. So now next is to do the 2 on each side with the nut plate here that needs to be actually slid in from the back here. So I slid the nut plate in the tube up here and then pre-threaded my 2 bolts. Just gotta zip those 2 in and get the back brackets next. And now I'm going to install the square end caps on the adapter brackets, just to make sure that no water gets in there. So now I'm at the rear of the battery, and you can barely see the hole there, but the hole pattern shifted down 40 millimeters, so I can get this one straight in, And here's that bracket installed, flat part facing the rear of the car. And this little step here is just to accommodate for the thickness of this bracket, which is getting sandwiched. But yeah, just those two go in. Then I installed all three of the connectors back onto the battery. And this main HV connector that was cracked, I just coated in several layers of tape to prevent any water from getting in. That's what the customer wanted me to do. And reinstall the ground straps. So here's probably the most technical part of it, installing the CAN bridge. This left connector here, there is you can see there, blue-green wire that you have to install this CAN bridge in line to. So the purple-green on the pre-flashed CAN board, which I can send to you, goes to the connector side, and actually green goes to blue, purple goes to green. And here on the side above the connector goes to the CAN low side, and this side, thankfully, blue goes to blue, green goes to yellow. So these are actually pretty specialized connectors. I'm not going to ship these out because you need a special crimp tool, but I will send something where you can crimp these on your own. And then here on the power side runs up here to this second fuse, which I left the stock 10 amp in and added the 5 amp parallel for that. And I can send you that fuse cable. And then the two black ground wires run up. I actually connect them here to a single wire, which I run up to this screw, which is on a lug to the frame. So now I'm going to zip tie all this up, tuck it back in, and start the car up. All right, here it is installed, zip tied into place. I put heat shrinker on the CAN bridge. Now I'm going to put this cover back in place. So now I put the service plug back in. I'm going to reconnect the 12 volt and start it up and see what happens. All right, here we go. First pull on the startup. Press the button. 177 miles. Swap worked. So now I do have this turtle mode, which is a code, I can't remember the name. I'll tell you in a second, but that's gonna get cleared on Leaf Spy. I'll put the link in the description on how to clear that. Okay, it was a P3102 code, and you need to go in service mode for Leaf Spy to clear that. After I cleared that, I still had a high voltage interlock error. Thought it could be related. The battery up here is only like 11.6 volts, so we tried jumping it, same problem. But the issue was, I'll go under the car and show you. This is that P31E1 code that kept showing up in Leaf Spy. This is just the menu to clear. Wasn't able to clear it, it just kept showing up. The issue was this blue tab I had out still. This blue tab needs to be all the way in. And now that I had confirmation that the code was gone, it was time to lower the car back down and drive it out of the garage to finish the job. The most amount of time is just bringing in the new battery and aligning it and then lifting it before securing it. That takes the most time in this project. And then there was that hiccup with the high voltage interlock, but other than that, it was a pretty smooth install, and the customer is really happy. They've now got a car that's gonna last for the next 10 years with 3 to 4 times more range than the car that they currently had. And the customer also came back with the trailer to pick up the old battery in attempts to sell it. I don't know if they ever had success. I hope they're able to sell it, and maybe someone was able to use it for solar and the battery is able to live on, and they got some money for it too. And for my next project, I really want to electrify a K-truck. So if you or anyone you know has a cheap or non-running K-truck for sale near Salt Lake City, let me know. I've already got a Nissan Leaf motor literally sitting in the corner of my garage, waiting, begging to be put in the K-truck.